Alrighty, what is up, guys? Aldo here. Welcome back. Apologies, haven't done a pre-recorded video in a minute. Been moving to this new apartment here. Still kind of getting set up. Still trying to get my lighting good. It's a lot of work moving, as you guys can imagine. So wanted to give you an update, kind of on the markets, what I've been looking at right now. I'd say this is a pretty important video. A lot of stuff I'm going to go over. So let's get started with Bitcoin right now. So right now, at the moment, on Bitcoin, we're hitting our previous high, the high we made on November 1st. And usually these wicks are always going to be, decent places of support and resistance because price, people look at these points, the previous high, that's where they look to potentially, try to take profits right there. In what I'm looking at here, if I wanted to, kind of estimate what could happen, 2 hours to confirm, money flow coming back up, green dot here, signaling continuation on the 12-hour. Money flow coming up on the 20-hour, these higher time frames, and you see this money flow coming up. I mean, really on any time frame for that matter, but on the and over the next few days. I mean, obviously for the time frames. I mean, over for the next 16 hours and the next daily, next 12 hours, next few days here. A lot of signaling of potentially coming up higher. Money flow is still strong on the 2-day coming up. Indicative of more upside potential. This almost you could consider a trigger wave here on kind of the 6-hour to potentially come up farther. Now, same thing here. This is what we call these little trigger waves. Beautiful. Worked perfectly there, worked nicely there, big jump up here. Worked so far. I mean, if you were to, depending on where you entered this, you'd probably be kind of in the green. It'd be a conservative place to try to take profits at this previous wick right here. Now, we kind of look at some of these lower time frames to estimate what would potentially happen more in the short term here. So 3-hour kind of telling us the same thing as the 4-hour. Hourly money flow, VWAP, you could get a trigger wave kind of to the downside. That's kind of supports the, the place of a rejection off of this area. 15-minute bear div. So hitting this area, that 15-minute bearish divergence, a lot of that could symbolize a potential, kind of short opportunity off of that area. Now you're hitting this area. So if you were to take that short, after that 15 right there, say you entered up there. Stop loss above swing high could be possible there. Not a bad risk reward ratio if you're trying to retrace down to this area. We don't know if it's going to retrace down that much. You could be more conservative with it. That was a big wick up. Go like right here. That's a really good risk reward ratio. This, this fib level could be significant as well. Obviously a good place to take profits for that on a trade like that is when you maybe see a bull div on the 6-minute, you maybe see a bull div, start to form on the 3-minute, something of, this nature. Maybe if we come down a bit more, come down here, you see that bull div on the 3-minute and you took that short, that's a good place to take some profits. Same thing, depending on where we hit, where we come down to. So that's what I'm kind of looking at for, kind of the short term here. When I look at those middle time frames, like I mentioned, it does look like we have some, more upside potential here. We're just hitting this place. So I would see this as mostly potentially a scalp short opportunity. There's people that enter these trades, right at the wick and then they already took profits. So that's, that's what some people do as well, because usually previous highs, there are always some psychological area. Next place after this potentially is going to be 36.5 and this trigger wave on the 4-hour and these, kind of continuation signs that we talked about on the 10-hour and a lot of these time frames would support the case to jump up to around, where is it, 36.4. 37 is going to be a really significant area as well. That's another spiral line. I think 37 is going to be really big. I would be looking closely at this level. Let me set a alarm right here to tell me when it hits 37. This could be a significant place to look to go at least scalp short. Now, let's move on to Ethereum a little bit. So Ethereum is jumping up a little bit more. Didn't quite make it to this our previous high right here. And ETH Bitcoin, we could look at. I'm just curious. So we are slightly bleeding a bit more against Bitcoin on this jump up. We're bleeding a bit more against Bitcoin, showing a little bit of weakness against Bitcoin. The thing is here, though, ETH may start to outperform it a bit. I could see a jump here. I could potentially see a jump here. But when I look at the 2-week, money flow looks like it might want to come deeper. I'm personally starting to DCA into Ethereum here. I think the Bitcoin evaluation is low enough for me. We've already bled against, it about 40% almost. So I think that's good enough for me. We could come down more, absolutely. But I think this is the place for me personally where I want to start DCAing into ETH. Now, Same thing as Bitcoin. A lot of these time frames are indicative of, potentially coming up a bit more. You may be forming a bear div on the daily pretty soon, but you're not quite there yet. And the money flow is still kind of strong despite this kind of bearish div in the 12 hours. So it is indicative of potentially coming up more. VWAP coming up in your 6 hour, 4 hour money flow looking to come back up. Green dot right there confirms in about 2 hours. So that's what we're looking at right here now. We're rejecting a little bit, really big fib level right here. Rejecting from that level, you may get a trigger wave to the downside in the hourly. That's something we'll have to keep an eye out for, potentially to even short and see what could happen here. Also, what we're seeing is not quite a bear div, but you are seeing kind of a bearish pattern in the 15-minute rejecting from that area. So potentially maybe come down, retest the spiral line kind of down here. 1886, money flow crossing kind of downward. So if you kind of break downward from that pattern, lose that spiral line, then you could be headed down, farther potentially. We just got to keep an eye and see what happens here. But as of right now, I'd say Ethereum is showing a bit of weakness against Bitcoin. But this daily, you may get that daily bear div, but you still have potentially more time in the green here, So yeah. And then the last thing too, same thing, it's already confirmed on Bitcoin, but green dot, trigger wave on the monthly, very likelihood that this will, probably start the next bull run. Probably could act, maybe even something like that, or something like this over here. Last one, February 2020. You did have one over here, May 2019. So we're kind of in between in the 4-year cycle, in between kind of those areas. So I think in the macro, it's going to be a really, really bullish sign. Really good place, I think, start to DCA into Ethereum. Maybe start to convert some, at least what I'm doing, not financial advice, but I'm starting to convert some Bitcoin into Ethereum because of this. Solana, CBZ had a Solana long that's been doing really well. He entered it yesterday in the Aldo Empire VIP Discord. Lana, of course, had some really, really good trades the past month. We've all been killing it for the most part in there. Keep in mind, guys, we're not going to be right all the time. You can't just blindly follow somebody's trades, but we've had a lot of really good ideas in there. And on Market Cypher SR, kind of hitting this point right here. So this is a conservative place to be taking in profits. Next place is going to be 46. We had the hidden bullish div right here, and then we jumped off from that, came up a bit. So that's looking pretty good. Not looking too bad. 12 hour, not looking too shabby. You could potentially come up higher for Solana. I know it's a fan favorite. That big area, see these wicks right here, that's just a huge area. If we could break through that 46 in your next spot, maybe 55 or something. Let's try a fib level. That's 67. That's a little high. But if we draw a fib level from probably this high here, essentially to that low, 72. Wow, there's not much in between. There's another way I drew it. I forget exactly. Let's see. There, that pocket. Yeah, that 55. I feel like it's significant, but there's just not much in between. So we just got to keep an eye on this, see if we could break above it, see if we could break above this. AVAX, a lot of these look the same. They look very bullish in the macro, green dot in the monthly. I think this is a good place to start DCAing a lot of these coins. AVAX, Solana, I could go on Cardano, Atom, Chainlink, DOT. DOT is excellent too. A lot of these are really down, and I think that kind of at this point, it's like, look right here, full kind of bubble pop pattern. Is there more data on Binance? Yeah, full bubble pop pattern. If there was more data, this would be probably a bull div on the monthly. That's a huge thing to kind of look at. Cardano as well. All of these just hitting major points, bouncing off bull div on the monthly right there. So, does this mean a FOMO in? I'm not FOMOing in. I'm DCAing in until pre-happening, probably until March, for the next 5 months. But if you're going to FOMO in, now is probably not the worst time to do so. If you got a strong stomach, if you're willing to wait a little bit, that's kind of as always. But if I were to FOMO in, now would kind of be the time. But DCA is usually the best strategy here. So yeah, and ultimately, the other thing too, TLT, this looks like it's bottoming out. Only a matter of time, I think, until we get that monthly bull div here, and then the Fed, is done raising rates. This starts to come down, or starts to come up. Excuse me. Could be a pretty good buy. I obviously would rather buy Bitcoin, altcoins. I'm not the biggest bond guy. Also 30-year, same, the inverse, 30-year yield, inverse of this, money flow come down the weekly. It could make one higher high, 5.4%, but I think this is gonna, kind of start to head down here, especially with that bear div. I mean, that's let's respect the TA here, especially with that bear div on the monthly. I'm gonna respect that and say that that will most likely indicate potentially the top of this. We'll see though. Ultimately, moving on a little bit more here, I want to look at the S&P 500 because this is, I would say right now our biggest kind of fear with, with altcoins, with Bitcoin, with crypto in general is probably this dumping. Us going into a recession. That's something that probably could bring us down for crypto. So basically, every time, we see bearish macro signs here. We see a monthly, not a bear div, but, monthly, very bearish pattern, money flow coming out. Now money flow is starting to come back up a little bit on that monthly. It looked like it would dump there. Every time it looks like it's in a dump, you just, some bullish thing comes out and then on a lower time frame then brings us up here. Now we're getting kind of a trigger wave on the weekly. And that's happened pretty much every single time since our last recession in 2008. Bearish things come up, they play out a little bit, and then you recover quickly. That's pretty much every time it happens. Bull div here, gap to our size. So this could probably potentially do what it did, maybe back here in this bull div or this bull div. Well, that one, no, you just dumped down farther. That was a rough 2022, but you're still in the green here. So, I mean, that's what we're looking for. And I think as long as these weekly EMAs stay kind of in the brights here, you're generally going to remain, a bit more bullish on the S&P 500. So that's what we got to kind of keep in mind here. So it looks kind of good. I mean, it looks like we're just going to continue our inflationary nightmare. The Fed's probably not going to sound as hawkish going forward as they're done raising rates, even though inflation's still going to be, bad, and they're still going to, say those CPI numbers aren't as bad as they really are, and we're just going to kind of live with inflation. I think that's kind of what's going to happen. Our hedges against that are going to be Bitcoin. They're going to be the altcoins that survive. They're going to be even the S&P 500 to a certain extent, commodities, a lot of things, there. So that's what I'm looking at for the market right now. Ultimately, to kind of wrap it up, right here, we are actually hitting, didn't even realize this before, almost hitting, kind of a spiral line on the regular candles right there. So we'll see how this kind of plays out. And I believe in this amount of time that I've made this video here, I just want to see what ultimately, coming down a little bit more. And we might get to that retracement to that pocket right there. Yeah, if you're zoomed in enough, on regular candles, hit that spiral line perfectly right there. So that's a place to look. Those previous wicks do make sense there. So yeah, guys, really appreciate you guys. If you want to check out the Discord, link down below. Hold on, Power VIP Discord, really good community. Also, if you want to trade, want to make some of these trades, FAIRDESK down below, really good exchange. Zoomex as well down below. Check those out. MEXC as well too. All right, guys, have a good one. Goodbye.